over to the first papers looking at us. We'll go to the Daily Post newspaper, where it's a rather very grim one. We need to prepare your minds for it, and it's relating to a story. News coming from Delta, and the water is looking really very bloody at this moment. But let's go to the headline there. It states, Senate seeks justice for officers, soldiers killed in Delta. You see, that's what the day is looking like. But first, we want to make welcome AB Bozimo and Mr. C. Good morning to you.
Good morning, everyone in the studio. Great to be here. Unfortunately, we're starting with such a story, but have a wonderful week ahead, everybody.
So, AB, walk us through this story as we begin, Mr. C. We see you. You're muted, Mr. C.
Okay. Arguably.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry. Good morning, everyone. Happy birthday, AB. Let's go.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. This arguably is the biggest, most consequential story in the recent news cycle. Some people, as yet unidentified, had the temerity, the unmitigated gall to actually attack some of the Nigerian army soldiers. There is and there can be absolutely no circumstances whatsoever in which our soldiers, our police, every form of security should be attacked, no matter what the grievance must be. Different stories have come out. The Daily Post puts it very plainly. The army allegedly went to do a peacekeeping mission and apparently were ambushed on their way back. I mean, the details are still coming out from different sources. For me, that's the bottom line. Anybody who attacked our soldiers, our military, our police is a terrorist. A person who has whatever grievance must go through the proper channels. Even if those channels include the military and police, you must go through the proper channels and get a lawful resolution. I understand 15, 16 more soldiers were killed. Some civilians as well were killed. And the Senate is saying, yes, we do need to get justice for them. I completely agree with the Senate. Whatever led to it in Bomadi local government, a place I'm relatively familiar with, our troops came under attack and they were killed. And in some instances, very gory stories of mutilation have come out of this place. Now, there are allegations thus far unproven, that some unknown people at this moment, they have not been identified, have gone to one of the communities to go and set it alight. We don't know who they are. There are some videos I've seen myself, but we don't know who it might be. All I'm saying, as the president said, a full investigation of this must be done. All of the perpetrators must be identified, fished out, thoroughly prosecuted. In my view, when you attack a soldier, you have signed your death warrant. Better people like Mr. C will talk about the proper legal process, and I will learn from him. But when you attack Nigerian soldiers, your death should be imminent, in my view. Yes, it may not be a popular perspective, but this is a huge loss. And what I would just like at the end of the day is that the energy that the army took to go and try and make this peace and try and rescue somebody who had allegedly been kidnapped, I'd love to see it also used for those poor 287 or so people, that same energy. But again, so that there's no doubt, anybody who attacked our Nigerian military or any other security forces has, in my view, signed their death warrants. How they go about it legally is fine, but they should die.
So that's the point where we reach over to Mr. C to also get your view on this very gory story coming out of the Delta State this morning. But take a look at it as you help us understand the legality in all of this action, where a commanding officer at that height lead this operation to go rescue someone, and two army majors and 13 other officers. Even in a war situation, can the casualty be this heavy?
Okay, thank you, Omas. And our thoughts go out to the families of the deceased soldiers, and we pray they receive the peace to bear this unfortunate loss. Now, I agree with everything AB has said, but I'm going to approach it from a different perspective. Now, as we're all aware, right, Nigeria has been beset with a lot of security incidents, especially from non-state actors. And the army is stretched in at least 3/4 of the federation. Now, it is correct. Murder is murder, and any unlawful and unauthorized killing of any human being deserves the death penalty. Now, in almost every country on this planet, if you attack an officer of the state, and by that I mean a police officer or a soldier or any officer who has been given authority backed by the state, that you can fully expect the entire weight of the state to come down on you. Now, having said that, two communities were clashing or fighting. Where was the Nigeria police force in all of this? How come they did not take the lead in resolving the matter? Because we must remember the Nigerian Army's primary responsibility is to protect Nigeria from external aggression, not to maintain law and order within its territory. So the first mistake was the soldiers taking this on by themselves. They should have come in as the last resort. Two, it was a very big mistake for the unidentified criminal assailants to kill 16 soldiers. Having said that, it is also a big mistake, with all due respect to the current president, to authorize the military high command to fish out the perpetrators. Unless I'm mistaken, and unless the constitution has been changed, it is the primary responsibility of the Nigeria police force to investigate all crimes of murder. Now, in his statement, which was released, there's no mention of the Nigeria police force. And I'm extremely surprised that the Nigeria police force is quiet about this. What is even more concerning is the silence of the Attorney General of the Federation. He is the chief law officer. He is the president's chief legal advisor. Maybe if he had advised the president, that statement would have been worded differently. And it begs the question, when you tell the army to go and fish out the perpetrators, and I'm by no means saying the perpetrators should not be fished out, the perpetrators must be fished out, they must be given their day in court, and if found guilty, they must face the full consequences of their actions. However, we must do everything properly. We cannot continue to bend the law when it suits our purposes. In addition, the houses that were burned, the houses that were set on fire, they weren't set on fire by spirits. It's human beings that did it. At what point will the police in Delta State or even a delegation from Police HQ in Abuja come into this matter? Because everything described in this story falls squarely within the remit of the Nigeria police force. Yes, they should work hand in hand with the army. They should keep them updated at all material points in time. But I do not believe from a legal perspective, the army should take point on this.
So just to sum this up, I return to you, AB, because you opened up this paper, this headline for us. History in itself, they say, is where it's replete with many examples. And the only thing it seems that we've learned from history is that we've learned nothing at all. Cast your mind back to sometime in 1999, somewhere around Bayelsa, and that would have been, and so it would have looked like more like less than a 1 hour drive or so, or thereabout, from where we're having this issue now down to Odi or thereabout once again. So why do we have this incident occurring once again?
Okay, frankly, okay, go on. Please go on.
No, Mr. Shoot.
Frankly, everything Mr. C has said, as I said, as a better person, he has said it all correctly, and I concur entirely. This is happening because somewhere in there, I am made to understand there was a relatively minor dispute, which, like Mr. C said, is within the remit of the police to actually resolve. It was strange, indeed, hearing that the Nigerian military were on a quote-unquote peacekeeping and rescue mission when I'm familiar with them in ECOMOG and other deployments where the Nigerian military is normally ranked, and the police too are ranked as some of the best whenever they're deployed to all of this peacekeeping thing. But within Nigeria, within states, within communities, ordinarily, it should be the police. That doesn't mean that I wanted the police to be the ones who are attacked. All I would say is that there seems to be more to this story than meets the eye. It was illegal to attack and slaughter our soldiers. They should be caught and they should face the consequence of their action. But like is so properly said, proper procedure must be followed. Otherwise, we have a situation where you are compounding a crime with further criminal activity. Burning of houses is arson. Somebody burnt house, that's a crime. Who set houses on fire? A killing of soldiers, of course, is murder. Let's step back from the emotional parts of this story and really get to the bottom so that, like you say, Omat, we won't have this repeat. 1999, 2024, let's not wait for another X number of years and have it happen again.
All right, so let's look at some of the messages. Do you want to say something, Mr. C?
No, so final point, yes, AB is correct. This story is unfolding. Now, I find it very intriguing, and it's the final point, that 16 soldiers went on a peacekeeping mission. Why 16? Why did you need 16 soldiers to go on a peacekeeping mission? But as the weeks unfold, we will get more details about this incident.
All right, Emeka says, well said, Mr. C. Tony, I'm not going to read your message because it does reek of a lot of insensitivity, so I will move on from that. Another Emeka says, the killing of our soldiers is just the extension of daily killings, abductions, and kidnappings being witnessed on our roads. The roads are death traps. A collapsed system will continue to witness questionable killings because of the collapse of institutions. Let's see. Yinka Bolu says, Mr. C, I'm struggling to understand the mistake of the president here. That area has history, and from history, the police has never been able to handle that area. This is not the first time the military moved into that area, and this is not a murder considering what was done to the bodies. Pastor Dapo says this military, are we sure it's a military retaliation? Okay, well, Pastor Dapo says this military retaliation for some diabolical misdemeanor is rather harsh and abrasive. I recall the time when the then general ordered an entire town in Delta State to be eradicated due to strange aggressions. How do we compromise a situation where innocent people have to suffer for some radical attitude of a few? Reminds everyone of what is being displayed in Gaza. All right, let's move on to the next headline, Omas.
The next headline would go to Mr. C this morning. Let's pick up the first headline here, and that relates to Lagos-centric and its food matters. Lagosians are excited as government begins 57 food markets. Mr. C, were you at any one of those markets over the weekend? 25% taken off.
Okay, thank you. So during the week, towards the latter part of last week, the Lagos State government did announce that 57 food markets will be opening across the state in furtherance of its announcements that it will be making available foodstuff at reduced or controlled prices to Lagos residents. Now, they were all supposed to start yesterday between the hours of 11 a.m. and 4 p.m., and venues were circulated on social media. However, I've not been able to get any feedback or any response from the exercise from the markets that's presumably opened yesterday. So we don't know what the reactions, what the experiences of those who visited those markets are. I did visit a particular newspaper website that would typically carry such news, but they haven't yet posted up the reactions. Now, since we're unable to debate, we're unable to comment on the actual feedback or the actual experience, I'll just quickly discuss why the program became necessary at any point in time. Now, because of the current economic situation, the Lagos State government deemed it fit as part of its social obligations to the people to make available foodstuffs at controlled prices. Now, the idea was, because the prices of foodstuffs have been increasing month on month for at least a year, the Lagos State government deemed in its collective wisdom that it would be nice, or it would be proper to make available this foodstuff to the people. Now, how this system was supposed to work, or it's intended to work, is that you're supposed to get vouchers and you're limited to a particular quantity. So no individual comes up to mop up everything in the market. Now, how this will play out in reality is yet to be seen. And until we get the reactions, we won't be sure. Now, how long is this program? I think they said it will run for, 3 or 4 Sundays. So depending on the success of the first phase and then the deep pockets of the Lagos State government, we may or may not see an extension of the program. But we'll wait as this week unfolds, and then we will start to receive feedback on the first day experience of customers at these markets. And then it would also help the government to identify niggling areas that need to be corrected ahead of the second market day, which is next week, Sunday.
You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. We see your messages coming through. Stay with us. The conversation continues.
It is still freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. Alice is still with us, and we've got Mr. C and the birthday man, AB Bozimo, still with us here. And we've got you most importantly, so get your thoughts coming across onto 0809-444-0981. You can also capture a replay of this segment up on youtube.com/smooth 981 FM Lagos, or you can log on live and see what's happening right now.
All right, let's go on to the next headline. And this is coming from Punch. UNICEF partners Gombe to tackle out-of-school children.
Now, I read through this story and I wondered whether there was, after all the word salad, whether this is a story about a workshop. UNICEF is partnering with the Gombe state government. Gombe has the unenviable situation where, because many states around it are troubled by a lot of, security matters, many children from around that state have to relocate into Gombe, and it's putting a big strain on the education services available for them. So this is about a workshop where the commissioners and education honchos in Gombe are celebrating the fact that UNICEF is partnering with them. They said they had about 550,000 out-of-school children, and now it's even up to 700,000. That's a huge amount. But when I read the story from top to bottom, I had one question to ask. Is there a single out-of-school child on last Monday that is now finding themselves in a proper educational facility as of this Monday? Because it's very good to hear about these partnerships. And, sometimes when the UNICEF and all such bodies come in, you have some of international best practices you can apply. But I just hear a lot of intentionality and not necessarily from the story any piece of execution. If you have 700,000 kids and you say we shall at least reduce this number by 10%, 70,000 children, or 50%, 350,000 children, then we have something to measure against. But they just, it's wonderful that UNICEF is partnering with us. When there's gaps in the government, UNICEF can step in and vice versa. I'm afraid there's not much I can take away from this story that directly and positively affects those out-of-school children in Gombe. Yes, it could come, and it should come, as long as I presume good faith that everybody is trying to pull in the direction of educating the children. But I've read too many of these stories, and there's little follow-up and feedback. So I mourn for these 700,000 out of school children, because their time, their youth, when they should build the foundation of their education, that's not happening, and it will seriously disadvantage them in the future.
Okay. Let's go over to Mr. C and let's find out if his internet connectivity at his end would not have been affected by the events of the last week gone by. But then let's pick up at the Daily Trust to help us re-echo that as undersea cable car service restored to some customers. That's main one speaking. Mr. C, how does this come and what's the impact in terms of service to the end users?
Okay, thank you. So as the world has come to realize and come to experience, we really cannot do without the internet these days. So towards the, I think last week or the last 10 days, there was an attack by Houthi-led rebels on a particular ship. Now, the crew, in a bid to avoid harm and possible captivity, jumped ship and dropped anchors. Now, the anchors that were dropped ripped apart some submarine cables belonging to internet service providers. And that caused a major disruption because we have at least 16 of such cable networks running along the floor of the Red Sea. Now, this spilled over back home, and we did witness last week, I think on Thursday, that internet service was greatly disrupted. Now, at the same time, we also did notice that one of the major telecom providers in Nigeria did not experience this dramatic disruption to its services because its cables are laid on a different pathway to Europe. Now, Mainborn, which is the subject of this story, has indicated that it has restored services to some of its customers and will restore full services to everyone within 2 to 5 weeks. So the question is, why does it require 2 to 5 weeks? First of all, time is required to identify the particular location that needs to be fixed. That you need to load a ship with the equipment that will be required to fix the fault, and the ship needs to have some journey time spanning 8 to 10 days in either direction. So where does this leave us as a nation in terms of national security and even in terms of getting on with our daily lives? Because we have seen from a study from the International Telecommunication Union that any time there's an increase in internet penetration, there's a corresponding increase in gross domestic product of the country in question. So what this means is the security agencies led by the NSA, who is the National Security Advisor, should begin to think out or begin to plan out doomsday scenarios whereby the available internet means into Nigeria is disrupted. What are our options? We have 2 satellites orbiting the Earth in low orbit, and the bigger question is, in an event such as this repeating itself, will those satellites be deployed? Now, it's best pointing out that we have 9 submarine internet cables landing that have been terminated in Nigeria. 8 are in Lagos, 1 is in Akwa Ibom. So it's instructive that everyone realizes that Nigeria is the place to be. Nigeria has the market. And this is a clarion call to the regulator. This is a clarion call to security agencies. We're actually quite brilliant people. Let's put our heads together and ensure that when there's a disruption like this again, we're not as adversely affected as we are today. But in closing, internet cuts are quite common. And I dare say every week you have at least 2 of such incidents across the planet. So we shouldn't treat this as some doomsday event. These things happen from time to time. And as ships continue to drop their anchors on the ocean beds, there's always the possibility that this will damage submarine cables. Now, one of the sad effects of all of this is that the cost of insurance for shipping has gone up because now ships are having to bypass the Red Sea, which is quite contentious, and go around on longer journeys, which probably add a minimum of 8 to 10 days to their journey time. Staffing costs have gone up, fueling costs have gone up, and then even the security costs to ensure that the staff are not kidnapped has also gone up. So let's see what happens, but fingers crossed, I think the worst, we've gotten over the worst, and full internet service provision should be up and running, say, in the time period given. Be seeing that Main One is one of the major internet providers in Nigeria today.
All right, let's quickly throw in some messages in before we get on to AB4 and next paper. While it comes in with this, the elders of those communities are just irresponsible. What is happening in the society is to be expected. If the elders cannot keep the youth in check, will suffer the consequences. Ask anyone in OD if this nonsense would ever happen again. And then going on, Yemi talks about empathy. I empathize with the military. However, this is what happens when you politicize an intelligence agency. This is an act of war. They are not just soldiers, but representatives of Nigeria slapped to the Hello Chamber. I pray God to comfort the families of the bereaved. Yemi from Apapa. Now, JP has a message here saying, good initiative by the Lagos state government and market organization. In some places were good, that is feedback in terms of the food market. Some not so good. Reports have some start at 9 a.m. and some at about 1 p.m.
All right, let's go on to the next headlines coming from Punch. Agency begins door-to-door campaign against sexual violence.
Yes, one of the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency has started doing some community awareness initiatives within different areas of the state. They've seen maybe this, they've identified this as a problem, and they want to ensure that people are aware of what comprises this gender-based sexual violence, and of course give people feedback mechanisms and so on, because there are these situations sometimes where you hear of some very horrible incidents occurring, and then people now want to settle it with a goat. No, I'm afraid if you actually engage in any crime, if you can be proven to have engaged in a crime of any nature, including sexual based gender violence, you should go in. The law should treat you appropriately. So this is, again, it's an ongoing thing, door-to-door campaign in different parts of the state, hopefully to raise awareness among assorted communities about the negative effects, impact, and solutions that people can pursue.
Mr. C, we'll have you help us go chase or bust ghosts quickly in about, let's say, a minute that we've got left here. Let's go to Anambra, where it is said that the government has uncovered a wide range of ghosts in its service, and they are trying to do things to kick them out. So help us understand that story.
Okay, so very, very quickly, the Anambra State government discovered 210 suspected ghost workers and sacked 6 assistant directors who were found to have used fake certificates to gain employment and subsequent promotions. Now, this story is one of the pedestrian stories that will typically come out in Nigerian media. So you've uncovered that there's no mention of any attempt made to recover the monies paid to these people. We must remember that salaries in government establishments, whether at national or subnational level, are not paid in cash. They're paid into accounts. Now, those accounts should have NINs and BVNs attached to them. What attempts are you making to recover the money? What attempts are you making to prosecute them for literally stealing money from them? And 2, more importantly, this issue of ghost workers cannot exist if there are no collaborators within the government structure, within the civil service structure. None of the civil service structure elements or individuals were identified, let alone sanctioned or even queried. So it begs the question, what is the benefit of this news piece? Because it's not even worth the paper it was printed on. To the 6 people who were sacked for fake certificates, what are you planning to do about it beyond presumably sacking them? That is a crime. That is forgery. And forgery is punishable under the laws of this land. Is there any desire, any attempt to make them have their day in court? It's not stated in the story. So really and truly, I don't know what they want us to do with this piece of information, because it actually shows them as being not thorough, not being sincere, and I dare say bordering on the incompetent.
All right, this is where we'll have to leave the conversation on Freshly Pressed this morning. Do we have a minute to just throw in one or two messages, Zibby? Let's see, Chika from Agina on the road this morning comes up saying, well, on the unfortunate killing of soldiers and police in Delta is highly condemnable. But let's set the record straight. As the soldiers the right people sent to civil matter, are we saying that the high-ranking officers such as the colonel and major are there to settle mere land disputes? Why is the soldier killing and destroying innocent civilian as against criminal that attack them? Why are we having this two-sided treatment from the military? Why are the soldiers always displaying their might down south when their personnel are killed, and look the other way around when it occurs probably in the north? And then it goes on and on. Zachary's message comes up here, says, I'm shocked that our army that have already been overstretched in Sambisa forest fighting terrorists and now being killed or attacked. This is simply unacceptable. No one should play politics with the issue. We need thorough investigation and action taken to deter recurrence.
Well, that's all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your messages. And special thanks to our analyst, Mr. C and AB. Happy birthday again happy birthday once again to you, AB.
And may the candles add up in very beautiful rows as you get along. Multiply them and get all the blessings.
Thank you so much, guys. You may agree or disagree with me. Please hit me up at AB Bozimo on all platforms. Have a wonderful day.